The lights were blinding hot, relentless, like the pressure in the room itself. The Kennedy Center stage, carved from decades of American prestige, was packed wall to wall. Celebrities, politicians, and dignitaries sat in rigid rows, their faces half cloaked in the flicker of cameras, half creased by expectation. But the stillness didn't last long. As Meryl Streep stood behind the podium, her voice, even her silver-gray hair, catching the lights like a crown, there was a quiet electricity in the air. She had just begun her speech, gentle at first, pulling the audience into her story with the ease of a woman who'd lived 1,000 lives on screen, and had seen too many off of it when it happened. From the third row, a voice, sharp and interrupting, broke through the golden hum of applause. "You don't understand America." There was a gasper collective intake of breath, like the room itself had been sucker-punched. The voice belonged to Congressman Adam Kennedy. He stood, tall and clean-cut, with a face like it had been carved from granite, and a fire behind his eyes that could both mesmerize and burn. In that single sentence, he had shattered the polite veil over the room, and challenged a legend. Meryl paused, stunned for only a heartbeat. But in that instant, the world seemed to stop. Cameras zoomed in. Phone screens lit up. Somewhere backstage, a staffer nearly dropped their clipboard. And in the heart of America, homes that had tuned in for an elegant award ceremony were suddenly witnesses to something else entirely. A moment raw, unscripted, and real. Meryl stepped back slightly, then leaned forward, gripping the edges of the podium with both hands like a captain steadying herself in a storm. "Excuse me," she said, not defensively, not with anger, but with something deeper, something layered with grief, disbelief, and fierce dignity. "You think I don't understand America?" The room was silent again, but no longer still. Now it buzzed with tension, with curiosity, the kind that doesn't blink. Let's step back. Because to understand that moment, you have to understand the two people who collided at its center. Meryl Streep, 76 years old, with a voice like warm velvet, and a mind like a scalpel. She wasn't just an actress, she was a witness. From Watergate to 9/11s, from Harvey Weinstein to the war in Ukraine, she'd used her platform not only to act, but to speak, often in quiet but unflinching truths. But lately, in a country bitterly divided, her words had drawn ire. Some saw her as a beacon of integrity. Others a coastal elite out of touch with the working class. Adam Kennedy, 44, born in a small town in Ohio, son of a steelworker and a waitress, he'd risen through the ranks, fast first in the military, then law school, then Congress. He was a self-declared man of the people, a populist firebrand who didn't mince words. He hated what he saw as Hollywood's moral grandstanding. He'd built a career and a following by calling it out. Their paths weren't supposed to cross like this, but now they had. Meryl looked out into the crowd. Her voice, steady as iron, came again. "I was raised in New Jersey," she began, her words now slow and deliberate. "My father worked in pharmaceuticals. My mother was an artist. I waitressed in college. I lived in cheap apartments. I watched neighbors lose jobs, lose homes. I've seen addiction destroy families. I've sat on the bedsides of dying friends. I have cried in classrooms with teachers who haven't had a raise in 10 years. I may not know your America, Congressman Kennedy, but don't you dare tell me I haven't lived in it." There was a murmur in the crowd, a soft, rising sound of shifting loyalties. But Kennedy didn't sit. His jaw clenched. His voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with the weight of conviction. "You don't speak for us," he said. "You come here in a gown that costs more than some families make in a month and tell us what morality is. We're tired of being told we're backwards for praying in church, for working in oil fields, for not using the right words all the time." A pause. Then Meryl's voice, quieter now. "I don't speak for everyone. I've never claimed to. But I will speak for the mother I met in Tulsa, whose son was shot in a school hallway. I'll speak for the coal miner in West Virginia, who told me, 'I don't want a handout. I want a way out.' I'll speak for the refugee girl in Minneapolis who asked me if America would still be hers tomorrow. Not because I'm famous, but because I listen. It wasn't anger that filled her voice. Now it was sorrow, and maybe something else. Resolve. And in that moment, something shifted. Let's rewind again. Because this story isn't just about a viral exchange. It's about two people carrying wounds and hopes deeper than what a podium can show. Kennedy had once wanted to be a writer. He'd written poems as a boy about rusted train tracks, and the way his mother's hands cracked from dish soap. But after his father lost his job at the steel mill, something hardened in him. The story of America, he believed, had been stopped by people who didn't understand what it meant to count change at the gas station. Meryl had dreamed of being a teacher. Her first love wasn't the stage, it was stories. But after college, it was acting that let her tell the truths that classrooms sometimes couldn't. She carried grief with her too, the sudden death of her first love. John, before she was famous. That pain never left her, it just taught her how to speak gently to the broken. Now, in that crowded hall, it was their griefs and dreams that were clashing. Not just politics, there was another subplot unfolding backstage. Among the tech crew was a 24-year-old intern named Maya Delgado. She'd been assigned to run the teleprompter, but her mind wasn't on it. Her father was dying in a hospital in El Paso, and she couldn't afford to fly home. She watched the moment unfold between Kennedy and Streep, not as entertainment, but as a kind of spiritual reckoning. Who was right? Who understood America? And in the balcony sat Margaret Kennedy Adams' mother. She clutched a rosary in one hand and the program in the other. She remembered her son as a boy, crying after his dog was hit by a car. How sensitive he was, how the war changed him, how politics changed him more. She didn't know if she liked the man he was becoming, but she knew he still had good in him. The speech resumed, but something had cracked open. Later that night, footage of the exchange exploded online. It was raw, unedited, no cuts, no spin, just a moment that felt ... human. Maya posted a clip on TikTok with a caption, "I don't know who's right, but maybe we need more moments like this." It got 3.2 million views in 6 hours. The next day, Kennedy's team released a statement doubling down, but he stayed quiet for 3 days, and then, quietly, he booked a flight to New York. No press, no aides. He requested a meeting with Meryl. They met in a small coffee shop on 2nd Avenue. No cameras, just two people and a rain-soaked window. "I wasn't trying to humiliate you," he said. "I just ... I feel invisible sometimes. And I think a lot of people do." "I know," she said. "That's why I speak. Because, many people are shouting, and no one's hearing." They talked for 2 hours. About books, about addiction, about the cost of fame, about forgiveness, and something in both of them softened. Just a little. The story ends not with a viral video, but with a phone call. A week later, Kennedy stood in the House chamber and quoted her speech. "I may not know your America, but don't you dare tell me I haven't lived in it." He paused, and maybe we all need to listen harder before we speak louder. The chamber was quiet. No applause, just reflection. And in El Paso, Maya sat at her father's bedside, holding his hand as he slipped away. She played the clip for him. He smiled faintly, a tear tracing down his cheek. "I think," he whispered, "that's the America I still believe in." Sometimes, the loudest moments come not from rage, but from people brave enough to speak gently in the middle of a storm. And that was the lesson left behind, not about politics, not about stardom, but about the aching, beautiful complexity of a country still trying to remember itself. Because maybe understanding America isn't about choosing a side, maybe it's about choosing to see.